Okay, I'm live. All right, markers, and this is our Anyone Can Farm question and answer show, Wednesday night. And I am Mark, your host, as I've just said. How's the light in here look? It looks like maybe that's a little too bright behind me. Let me check that. Yeah, it looks better. All right, we got some people in. All right, so today's Wednesday, and I've had a pretty productive day. I'm going to show you a little bit right behind me, this project that I've been working on. And we have our wood stove in. The hearth is completed. It's 98%. I dropped some electrical down. See, I ran it in exposed conduit. I like that look. And I decided not to go with rock up the chimney. I just put a skim coat on it, and I think it looks good. I like the rustic look here. Before, when the stove was going and it was hot, you'd have to limit how close you were to it, right? And if you didn't have it running hot and it was cold out and you were too far away from it, you were still cold. So it just wasn't working the way I wanted to. I mean, it would heat the house, and it was bare bones, making it livable in here, but wasn't as nice as it could be. And I've been thinking about this project for a long time, and I finally did it. And I was talking with my daughter this morning. I said, isn't it really fulfilling to think about doing something and then actually execute it, and then be able to be in its presence, what you did, and enjoy it? I mean, it's very enjoyable, really. Come out here in the morning and it's warm. I just assume the bedrooms be cool, but so they stay pretty cool. But you come out here in the morning and it's warm. You know, even if the wood stove has gone out, there's so much stone and concrete here that it retains a lot of that heat. And so it gives you an accumulation of heat that it has a way of regulating itself, and it's really nice. And it just created sort of an ambiance in here. And I'll show you what I did. I put a ceiling fan, just a small 44-inch ceiling fan, Home Depot special, $75. And that drafts down over it and pushes the heat evenly out into the house, just continuously. We had a different heater here for a long time. It was a wood furnace, you know, like you see at Tractor Supply. And it would get super hot, and then the fans would come on and back, and they'd blow the heat out, and then it would get real warm, and then it would go down, and it would get cold. And then the fans would come on, and it was noisy, but we really thought it was cool when we first got it because, oh, it's warm in here. Because this is an old farmhouse, and it is drafty. And I'm making good on a promise that I made a long time ago that I would fix the house up. And so that's my goal this winter, is to do a lot of repairs and a lot of insulation and things like that to make it more comfortable to live in. So that's what I'm working on. So last week I talked to you a little bit about actually being the employee that you would want to employ, you know. So you're the boss of your homestead, and I'm saying become a better employee, because you'll be a better asset to your homestead, to your organization. And the way to do that is to learn how to get yourself trained to do things that you couldn't do before. And that's kind of the reason why I'm showing you this. I'm not showing off, like, look at me, look at what I built. I feel that way. when I sit here and I say, wow, I really like that. I know it's imperfect. I'm not selling my my expertise as a stonemason, because if I did, somebody would look at that and they would say, well, what about this and what about that? But see, I built it for my organization, and I was the quality assurance on it. I don't think I could do it for other people, so I'm not a stonemason by trade, and make that really clear. Um, However, I was able to build something that was functional and is to my liking and to my wife's liking, which is very important to me, and she thinks that was pretty nice. So that was nice, and that's what I'm saying. You want to work at being the employee that you would want to hire. So tonight, just real quick, I want to talk about. Um, and if this hits me, I'll do this every time. I'll tell you what hit me today. But as I was thinking about this today, I was actually butchering a pig today. We started at 3, and I was up here by 6:45. So we got her done pretty quick. And I came in here to a nice warm house, which was really special to me. Sat down, took my boots off, and then I realized I had a phone call at 7 o'clock that I had to take, and so here I am. But what I wanted to talk about was, or bring to your attention, is maybe if we were going to title this, it would be homesteading as a career. All right. Now, I've never, oh yeah, I shouldn't say never. I am at this time not advocating anybody quit your day job and become a commercial farmer. I'm not advocating for that, because I don't think the time is right now in our country. It's not right. You have too many things that you're up against, and it's just not right. I'm not going to go through all that right now, but I don't think now is the time to do that. But I do think now is the time to feed your family. Now is the time to take this on as a profession, your career as a homesteader. Well, what are you talking about homesteading? What, just some chickens and a garden? What, that's not very much. Anybody could master that. Well, no, homesteading's far more than that. If you look at all the things that you need to live, to make your life better, and you have a job, so you're going out every day and you're bringing home money, and then you use that money to get those things that you need. Well, if your homestead is put together with the idea that it's there to provide you with all the things that you need, well, that takes on a little bit different. That's more than just some chickens and a backyard garden. Then there's a host of skills that you could master, and once you've mastered those, they enhance your life. If you know how to, and fill in the blanks, you don't have to pay somebody else to do it. So therefore, that's a chunk of money that you don't have to bring home, or that's a chunk of money that you can apply towards something else that will give you a return. Something like buying tools, good hand tools. You're going to have those the rest of your life, unless you have kids like I do. And then you might have them, but you won't know where they are. Or you might find them 2 years from now, where they were last working with them. But I remember when I was a kid, I used to do that with my father's tools. And then when he came to the end of his life, he said to me, hey, I want to show you where the tools are. And he took me and he showed me where the tools, they were the tools. Those were the tools that we had at my parents' house when I was a kid. Very important. And they are passed on to your kids. Now, in my case, I had two kids working with me. My youngest son, 8, and my next youngest son, 10. And in the past, they were always the little kids standing around while the bigger kids were butchering a pig or butchering a cow. Today I said, you guys are helping me. And at one point I had to stop and say, hey, this isn't playtime. I need you to be watching to see what the next step is and get to it before I have to tell you. And they caught right on pretty quick. These guys are my youngest kids are pretty sharp. And it went pretty smooth. And at the end of it, they were feeling like, hey, this is good. I could do this again because it was fun. We accomplished something. I told them, hey, we can get this done in 2 hours, I bet. It was a little bit more than that, but they were very much involved. So think about this as a profession. Think about this as a secondary profession. And as time goes by, I think what will happen, this is what happened with me, was this is where my interests were. What I did at the end of my Air Force career was what I did to make money. That's what I did to finish my career in the Air Force. But I wasn't really interested in it as much as I was in the homesteading. And then because that's where me and Jill started, we had a little farm out in Montana, and we were just doing chickens and some pigs, and then I got some beef cows, and then I wanted to have some pigs processed, and the processor said, I'm surprised you're not doing this yourself. You're that kind of guy. And he let me work with him, and then that began the butchering career field too. So that's a whole another thing that that you can add to your repertoire. And let me tell you something on the homestead. If you're available and you're ready, there are people that will say, hey, can you do this for me? And they might be jobs that, in a day, you can make darn near a week's pay. And it's sort of like being a free agent. You're not signed up. You don't give the majority of your day to somebody else for dollars that are extremely devalued and don't really get you that much. This way here, you start to think a little bit differently. You do. It's hard to explain it. But try to think about your homestead as your facility and your career. And it doesn't have to be like some of you are listening to me right now. And I'd like to, but I live in an apartment right now. Well, part of what you're doing is your facility, your equipment, but then it's here. You have to know how to do these things. I think I told you the story of this guy that came to us, wanted to see what we were doing, and said, hey, I want to do that. And he went out and he spent a bunch of money on chicken processing equipment, built a chicken processing facility. And I wasn't thinking about it, but he was really going to be competing with me for what I was doing. And then they did it once. And then he said, hey, can you guys come over and help us with this? And my kids went over and we knocked out all their chickens, and they never did it again. As far as I know, that chicken processing equipment was sitting there may still be sitting there. I don't know, because I don't see the guy anymore. But it's not just the facility. It's not just the equipment. It is the know-how to do this. So as this is your career, or your maybe your part-time career, increase your knowledge on things. Read, watch YouTube, things like that. Okay, attend classes like the ones we give, stuff like that. I'm plugging my own organization. But I will tell you this, our November class is completely full for the Homestead Hog Harvest. And the class in the UP that starts on the 18th, 19th, and 20th, I think there's 2 seats open. Somebody punked and couldn't make it. So I think there's 2 seats open, but you'll have to check with Randy up at Shady Grove, UP. He would be the guy you'd have to talk to. And I think Jill puts it into the description. Or if you can't find it, just call me. I can set you straight on that. But as we've been working closer towards, Homestead Hog Harvest, I have thought that this year I'm going to start the class a little bit differently. A lot of times I've gone around and said to people, what do you want out of this class, right? I don't think I'm going to do that. I think this time I'm going to say, this is what I want for you out of this class. I'm teaching this because I want you to know how to do X, Y, and Z. And my expectation of you is this. And I'm going to teach you everything you need to know how to get there. Am I filming the hog harvest? no plans at this point. I think it might be a good thing to do, but I'm not sure how we would do it. I need to converse with somebody
Is
about
that
that.
film to like show other people, or I'm gonna put it
Well,
together as a class. It's on the list.
yeah. All right. Joe will talk about that later. Um, I don't know. See, I'm really tied up during this whole thing. We're going to have 10 people here at Baker's Green Acres, and I'm really tied up, so I can't do the filming, and it has to be somebody that knows what they're doing. We tried doing it before, and we had somebody that just stood back and filmed the room as it was going on. That's not what it needs to be. I would need to direct people into what I want shown and things like that. So I don't know. I'll have to think about that. Who asked that? Was that Lorna that asked that?
I didn't see it.
Okay.
So.
All right. So I think that's a trend. That shows a trend. Both these classes are full right to the brim. It could be because of this question and answer. I'm not sure. Maybe we've just turned a corner in the United States as far as homesteading goes. It could be. I heard there was a homesteading convention last week, and Joel Salatin was there. Nobody told me. I didn't know. I would have loved to have gone to that, but I didn't know anything about it. All right. So that's it. We got 2 puppies to go, 2 puppies to sell, still rehome, and that's it. I'm ready to go. I'm ready to go with some questions. We had a beauty this week, and I wonder if she's in the chat. Can you tell who's in the chat? Rachel, if you're in the chat, let us know.
Yeah, I don't think so.
So when I answer that question, it was a good one.
Chelsea had a question. She wondered, she has sweet potatoes to cure and wonders how we cure ours, which we've never cured sweet potatoes, but I assume that they're the same as potatoes.
They're not.
And okay, well then I don't know.
We don't raise sweet potatoes. Not that we don't like them. I actually do like them. We just don't. We just haven't. It's on our list of things that we need to do.
It was on my list for this spring, and it just didn't happen.
Yeah, it got by. I went to a class one time, and the guy talked all about how to do it, and he even told us how to preserve them. And he showed us one that was 2 years old, and it was fine. And I don't remember how he did it. So honestly, I can't help you with that. I can't help you. That's beyond my knowledge base at this time. Maybe there's somebody that can chime in on the chat that knows, but I just don't. I'm sorry. This might be a good time to plug the tribe page. It's the Anyone Can Farm tribe. And I've been throwing videos up there, and I think that it's a good place for homestead geeks to go, because a lot of the stuff that I will put up there, I wouldn't necessarily put up on my personal page, because people aren't into, the things that we're into, and they would find it boring or whatever. Every now and then I'll put something up on my page, and I'll say, hey, if you want to hear more of this, go on over to the Anyone Can Farm tribe page. It's a invitation only. And that way you get a notification if something goes up. And lately, I've been really impressed with the things that people have been putting up on there, the questions that we've been getting, and just the interaction between homestead geeks. It's been really neat. I gave a shout out to the Trombleys. They were some people that contacted me. Actually, it's going to be about 2 years ago, right this time of the year. We were heading up to hog harvest up in the Upper Peninsula when she called me and said that they were just out of the military and were looking for something to do and something productive. And they came across one of my videos and they said they'd like to get involved with what we're doing. And we talked the next year, or no, Homestead Hog Harvest here at Baker's Green Acres, which would have been in November, which was last year. Actually, it was a year later. It was just last year. They came in their motorhome, took the class. We had a great time, helped them along. I've been kind of mentoring them on the phone. They took some other classes that we offered, and he went out and built a scalder, and they've killed their first pig. And we've watched their progress on the tribe page. We've also seen some failures too. They had some big flooding problems. They had a fire. So it's not all great, but they are still plugging away and still really enjoying themselves. And I don't think anybody's going to do this if you don't like it. If you don't like it, stick with what you do like. If you get into this and it's not something that that is a way of life that you would want to share with your friends, then it's maybe not for everybody. But these guys, we really set the hook in them, and they're making great progress. And I embraced sort of the victory there, because they came to me for help. I showed them what I knew, and now they're plugging along and really doing the thing. And I feel like, I feel kind of like I'm on the team with them. So good stuff. Good stuff. That's the tribe page. Where was I going with that? That wasn't a question, was it?
Oh no. You want a question?
Yeah, give me a question.
Mike wondered, how do I get my chickens to lay eggs in one spot? They're dropping them everywhere. Nesting boxes with straw.
Yeah.
And make
I'm
sure it's
assuming,
fresh and clean all the
is
time.
this Mike?
Like
I'm
the-
assuming that you have nesting boxes. And if you don't, a nesting box is a place where they can get in and only put bedding there. And then don't give them any other place to lay eggs. And then you can put an Easter egg in there. It needs to be heavy. If it makes a tap noise, that's not good.
Golf
It needs
balls.
to be, golf balls, probably white ones. Put them in their nest, and that kind of prompts them to do that. And they'll all start laying in the same place. Once a few of them start laying in there. Yeah, we've had that problem before when they're brand new and they're still laying the little tiny eggs. So,
and they're just confused about life in
Yeah.
general.
yeah. So,
Yep.
golf balls.
Golf balls in a clean, dry spot.
Yeah.
And you might also keep them locked in, like if they have a big run, just keep them in the house for a while until they get done laying, and then they'll get the idea.
Yeah.
They're not to lay outside.
You can reprogram a chicken pretty quickly because
They got a short memory.
they got a short memory. Yeah.
Paul wanted to know, winter
Paul.
bedding, straw or hay?
Oh, that's a good question. Good question. If you watch my videos, I kind of get into that a lot because people kind of use the terms interchangeably, straw and hay. Straw, first of all, for bedding, always straw, always straw. I mean, if it's a question between no bedding and hay, then use hay. But hay does not have the insulating qualities that straw does. Straw, just for nomenclature purposes, is the stalks and the leaves from a grain producing plant. So let's say a wheat plant has the wheat kernels at the top. You've seen that swaying in the winds, golden fields of swaying grain. Well, they just take the grain off the top with a combine, and then everything else gets chucked out the back, and that would be the stalks and the leaves. And then usually what happens is they go along and they'll bale that up, and they're baling that up. A lot of times, like out in Montana, they bale it up just to get it off the field because they don't have the organic material in the field to break that down. Here, you could just leave it out there and it would just go away. But it is also baled up for bedding purposes, and that's what you want to use. If you doubt me or you just want to have some personal anecdotal evidence, spread some out on the ground and lay down in it when it's nice and clean, and you will be really surprised at how warm it is. And then do the same thing with hay. Hay's not really, it's not really that warm, but it's better than nothing, I would say. And hay is feed, so your pigs will eat both. That's for sure. There's a lot of energy in straw. Actually, the cattle will eat straw when it's really cold. For some reason, they kind of like it. It's always good to have lots of straw in your barn. It really is. It keeps well as long as you keep it inside and keep the water off of it. I've got 20 bales in the barn right now, big bales. And, if for some reason I'm farrowing in the wintertime, I can farrow outside and just drop a bale out there and they will make a nest in there and it will give them plenty of cover and it's a pretty good deal. Yeah. Next question.
How about the one from earlier this week? They've about done fixing up their house. It's been a long project, and they're looking at moving out to their dream homestead. And she's wondering what would be good things to spend money on, and what are things that you wouldn't recommend spending money on.
All right. So what this is, these people are friends of ours, and they've fixed up a home that's in the high rent district, put it that way, and it's on a lake, and they really want to, I think, live a little closer to the earth, and I think they want to have a homestead. They want to raise their own food and stuff. They buy pork from us. I think they get chickens from us, and they've come to our classes, or the wife has, and one of the daughters used to work for us. Um, and so I think they're wanting to embrace the homesteader lifestyle. So she asked the question to the group. Was that on the tribe?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. What are some of the things to look for and some of the things to stay away from? So if you're trying to pick out a homestead, what are the things that you have to have? And what are the things that are just bells and whistles? So let's have a conversation about that because I thought it was a really good question. And as somebody that has done this, I think I can speak with authority on what is really necessary to a homestead. All right, so the first thing was water. Because if you wind up hauling water, where a lot of places in Michigan people have to do that, they actually have to haul water because the water is so rancid, is so bad that they can't shower in it, they can't drink it, and they can't use it for water in their gardens. If you have to haul water, you don't want to live there, no matter what, unless it's just you and another person and you work jobs and it's just a cheap place that is, you're going to stop there for a while and it's just short term. You don't want to because it requires a lot of water to grow crops, gardening, fruit trees, nut trees, bushes, all that stuff takes a lot of water to do that. And without that, I just would let it go. That would be the very important to me. I think the next thing that I'd be looking at is the soil. Is the soil fertile? Is if the soil is not fertile, then you have to know how to do some other things in order to bring it up to fertility purposes. And let's say they came across a really nice place, cute house, good water, but not fertile soils. Then I would have some questions for them like, well, what do you plan to do? Because if they're not going to grow any crops and they're just going to do livestock, then it might not be as important to them. It might not be. But then I would also say, well, there's ways to build soil for a garden or for a greenhouse, and you could do that if you're willing to do this, this, and this. What kind of equipment do you have? what's your scrounging capability, you know, how much time you're going to have, things like that. But if you could find water and fertile soils, you're really ahead of the game. And it can be done. There's a lot of properties around that are like that. What about acreage? I think that was another question that she had in there. Now, this farm that we have is an 80-acre farm. And when I got this, it was just like, well, that was what was available. It was in the right town and it was close to my wife's parents. And so, okay, we got it. I didn't know any of these things. And I thought 80 acres, if I'm going to be a professional farmer, I have to have the land to do it. We're talking homesteading here, though. If you had 10 acres, you can do a lot on 10 acres. Actually, you can do a lot on 2 acres. You can do a lot on 1 acre if that's what you have. It does, acreage is not really the key. But by the same token, let's say you find a really nice place, but it's got 260 acres. What am I going to do with that? You can rent it. You can rent it. But if you can afford it, it's a good place to keep your money tied up, is in land. It's a really good place. So this is a conversation that could go on for a long time, but it is something to consider, and it is worth maybe talking with somebody at length, like somebody that you could consult with, and have somebody else look at it and say, well, you know, you want to do this, but you probably, with that land, you probably want to do this, you know, and just because you have land, it might not be good land. It might be swampy, and then you can't really do much with swamps. And you have a lot of mosquitoes with swamps and things like that. You know, is it on a busy road? Is it on a dirt road? Do you have neighbors that have hunting dogs next door? Because if you had that, that would not be so good.
Or neighbors that might dislike your other things you're doing. And
yeah, or if you have,
be a pain that
right, if you have neighbors that wouldn't like what you plan to do, you know, that could be a problem too. So there's a lot of things to think about, but I thought it was a really good question, and I'm glad that she's asking it and getting input. If there's anything else anybody can think of, you could go to the tribe page and look that question up and shoot her some some input on what she ought to do. I'm sure at some point we're going to talk with them about this and maybe give them some personal pointers. It has to do with the skill set too. Like, if you can fix a place up, then you might be able to get a frustrated property and be able to really do something with it. Meaning a property that's not quite up to speed for most people. And I tell you what, that's good. If you can make a silk purse out of a sow's ear, that is a skill that a lot of people don't have, and it takes courage to buy a beat up place and stay with it long enough to get it fixed up. It takes courage to do that. A lot of people wouldn't do it. A lot of people wouldn't do it. Yeah, my wife's making faces over there. She's got a nice wood stove in there now, and she's real happy with that. Oh yeah, there's a nice face. Another question, please.
Paul wondered if you've thought of going certified organic. He said you have the perfect place. Old equipment wouldn't cost that much.
I thought about it, but then I said the hell with it. Here's the deal. Certified organic means that somebody else comes in and says, yup, you're certified. And then when you sell your products, you can sell them as certified organic. So you can sell them to like little health food stores and stuff like that. The reason why it's not really caught on very well is because, okay, this is the problem with, or one of the problems with being in commercial farming these days as a small farmer, the way I was, is your biggest enemy is a store like, let's say, any of the big box stores that has a section that's organic, right? Well, and then their prices are way cheaper than ours. Matter of fact, they're only about maybe 10% more than the garbage that's in the next aisle over that you really shouldn't be eating. And then when you really look into it, which people have and done some pretty good articles on, um, it's no different, you know, like you're not gonna at the big box stores, you're not gonna find chickens that were raised on clover. They're gonna be chickens that were raised in chicken houses, but the feed they're getting is organic, right? Why is it organic? Because they say it is, I guess. I don't know. You know, you can buy organic feed. What makes it organic? Well, we say it is. And you know, the organic standards, I get that. I get all that. But I just think that the standards are all written by lawyers, and I don't really trust that they're that much better than the way that we do it. And they do it so cheaply that it puts us really at a place as commercial farmers where we cannot compete with them. So I think the standards have been bastardized, yeah. And I don't want to put out, I think when we checked into it, it was $2,000 a year we had to put out for the certification. And I just didn't see where it was going to help me out that much. Because if you sell it to a restaurant, they're not going to put it on the menu. Certified organic, I don't think, unless you have found a place to do it. No, I'm not going to do it because I'm not commercial farming anymore. Anyway, I'm feeding my family and some friends, and the customers that I have that are friends. If they want certified organic stuff, I just say, well, I don't have it, so they can go they can go to Aldi's and get it, but I don't have it, right? But you know, if you go to Aldi's and ask the girl at the register, this says it's organic. What does that mean exactly? She's going to be like, next, right? They don't know. It's kind of, well, if you want to trust it, you can. I kind of prefer the open door policy with people. If they're customers of ours, then they are friends. That means they can come up my driveway and say, hey, would you mind if I just saw how you grow these chickens? And I'd say, I don't mind a bit. I'll show you. You know why I'll show them? Because when they're feeding them to their friends are going to be, you know what, this is the best chicken I ever had. Where do you get this? Oh, let me tell you where we get this. And that's the kind of marketing you want. And then, you know, you're getting another customer by a referral, not by some sticker on that says organic certified. That whole certified thing is crazy too. What makes somebody certified anyway? I don't know. That kills me. Question?
I was just asking Paul why he's wanting to get
Yeah, it'd be
certified.
interesting to know why you're gonna see. This is why it would be nice if Paul's face could be on there and he'd ask the question, and then we could kind of converse a little bit. So we got to figure out a way to do that.
Yeah.
Well,
We'll kick that around.
I don't see the benefit, Paul, of being certified organic. I don't really see that.
Growing corn. Oh, growing corn, wheat, soybeans for the big grain buyers that sell the grain for organic feed. So he's talking about growing on scale.
Oh yeah, if you're gonna grow to sell to them, I guess so.
Yeah, it's a sweeter market than selling to
maybe
regular commodities.
I mean, I got to see corn this year that didn't get sprayed with Roundup. Not pretty. So I guess there's ways to do it, but I don't know how to do it. I mean, I don't use Roundup, but I don't grow feed corn either.
Alrighty. Just wondered, what's your thought on GMO corn and its effect on human bodies?
My thought is, all right, genetically modified corn is genetically modified so that corn will tolerate Roundup, which is glyphosate. And I have an engineer friend that used to work at the company that made that stuff, and he worked on that project. And the companies are in business to make money, right? And if, all right. So, okay, glyphosate is sprayed directly on the crops, on corn, on soybeans, on there's a whole bunch of stuff now that they've genetically modified so that they can spray this herbicide directly on it, and it will not kill it. It will kill everything else, but not what's been genetically modified. So it's a herbicide, right? And so you might be thinking, well, I am not a herb. I'm not a plant, so it wouldn't be hard on the human body. But you would be surprised how much of your human body is plant. And that is all those little microbes that are in your gut, which goes from here to here. And you have, they say, about 3 pounds of bacteria. And those are plants, actually. So if you're ingesting herbicide and you kill off some of them, that's not a good thing because you need them for digestion. All right. Because your gut is basically like a compost pile. So if you took a compost pile, spread it all out, sprayed it down with glyphosate, and then put it back up together and see what happens, it will retard that composting process or maybe stop it dead in its tracks. And so, no, I don't think it's a good thing. And it's not the genetically modified corn or soy. It's the glyphosate that's been sprayed on it. And they've gone one better. They've re-identified glyphosate as a pesticide, not a herbicide. Now it is a pesticide. And what they do on wheat crops is they'll bring them to maturity, and what they used to do is just let them die, let them, the change of season, they would die. And then when they were dead and they were dried, then they'd go in and they would harvest them, and the grains would be dry and all that stuff. Now they're spraying them with glyphosate, and they can get a more consistent harvest. So the glyphosate, they spray the wheat down with it. It's not genetically modified. It kills the wheat, and then they harvest the grains off of it. They grind them up, make bread out of it, and they wonder why people are having problems eating, with intolerance to gluten. It's not a gluten intolerance, I don't believe, anyway. And this is just my opinion. But I don't believe it's a gluten intolerance. I think it's a glyphosate intolerance. Just my opinion. But you asked, do you have anything else, Mel?
I don't right now. You could ask him if.
Yeah, if anybody has some questions, why don't you fire them at us right now? We got about 15 minutes. It's almost like Jill's having a bigger conversation with people than I am. Are there any more questions?
Nope, we had people seed saving this week. Chelsea was. Scott Burton says hi.
Where have you been?
And someone else was I forget their name. Sunny, I didn't write it down. Sunny Patch Farm was building a mobile shelter for goats and donkeys using hay wagon running gear.
Oh, nice.
As a cover for when they're moving them. That's what's been going on out there.
I'm rebuilding a hay wagon right now as we speak. Actually, for the hog harvest class that's coming up, we use the hay wagon as a working surface so we can work outside where the light is good and we're not so crowded. I can talk a little bit.
Okay, Chelsea Smith wondered just.
Yes, Chelsea.
Now we're getting a pile of questions. So, how do you wash your eggs?
Well, I tell you this, you don't want to wash them with soap. So you just put them in warm water and you use your hand and just get the poop off of them. I don't recommend selling them, unless you want to sell them to your friends and neighbors, but getting some sort of contract going with a store, you kind of fall behind, and because the chickens don't lay consistently and all that stuff. So it's better if you just uh, use them at your house, and then you can go on the Baker's Green Acres YouTube, and there's a pretty good video that Jill made about water glassing, and it's a way that you can save eggs right through the winter. I mean, you can save them for 2 years, and you're not freezing them. You're not freezing them. I don't want to. You didn't ask the question about that, so I won't go into it. But you just want to clean them off with just warm water, no soap, because they have like kind of a waxy substance on it that seals up that eggshell. It's actually hermetically sealed. It's hermetically sealed with that wax on the outside of them. So you don't want to wash that off. You just want to get the crusty poop off. And poop has kind of it's gotten a bad name over the years. I'll just put it that way. Is there another question?
Yep.
Don't get down on poop so bad.
Mike is getting a small herd of goats tomorrow. Any particular things I should know or have for them?
You're asking the wrong guy, man. But I'll tell you, a 22 Magnum works really good right between the eyes.
Bottle rockets.
Yeah. No, goats are really good for new farmers to get, because it builds patience, right? It helps you to build patience. Anything that you should know. If you're going to milk them, you'll be getting goat milk out of them. Doesn't taste as good as cow's milk, but people like it, and there's people that need it. My wife started my kids on goat's milk when we weaned them off of her. And I was always a little uncomfortable with that, because I always felt like, what's going to happen if that goat steps on the kid's face? But I've been using that joke for years. But the kids did well on goat milk. I don't think you can get them going on cow's milk quite as easily. It's a little too fatty for them. That's what I've heard. I don't know.
No, the milk proteins aren't digestible.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
So goats, what they're known for is standing on top of your car when you come home, and there they are standing up on top of your car. They're also known for, if you have a nice little place on your homestead where you're going to plant some trees and stuff like that. The goats can be on the other side of the homestead, but they'll know when you bring them home, and they will get in there and they will eat every leaf off those trees that you just planted. They'll bend them right down to the ground and eat them off, even though they are in amongst a bunch of trees that are wild trees. They'll do that.
So good fences.
They're tough on fences.
Electric top wire.
Yeah, electric fences. I would just use nothing but electric, and I would bait them right to it. Take an apple or something and run that along that fence so they can smell it, and they'll go over there and put their damn nose right on there and get shocked. Yeah, goats can be really kind of tough to deal with, and they're a good learning experience. We don't have any goats on Baker's Green Acres. We did, but no. They're good to eat. I can tell you that. They're really good to eat. People like them. I'm sure you'll like them, especially when they have little ones. Oh, baby goats are so cute. Oh, yeah, they're cute. Yeah, so what you should know, well, when you get to the point where you think maybe you're going to try something else, then contact me then. I'm not a big goat person. I'll tell you that right now.
They are useful for getting areas that some other places can't graze.
Yeah.
Because they do like brush.
Yeah, that's true. They eat stuff that I had a friend out in California that would use them. They had olive trees, and they would use them all around the olive trees because they didn't eat olives, but they would eat everything else. They wouldn't eat the olive trees. And we used to have this goat named Maggie. Somebody gave her to us. She was kind of a pygmy. And I was changing the oil in one of the trucks, and I left the oil there a little too long, and she drank it. And she went back to it several times, and we would see these gross look like duck poops, you know. And then we saw her do one time. She got to be pretty friendly. We'd be campfiring, and she would come over and want to be petted. And I saw her let one out one time, and she just had motor oil running down the back of her legs. Like, oh,
she was
boy.
black fore and aft.
Black fore and aft, yeah. Good old Maggie.
But she would come see us at the campfire because she wouldn't stay in.
Yeah,
So-
she won't stay in either. She wasn't phased by electric fences, and she wanted to go where she wanted to go.
She was too short. She'd slip under with her horns.
Yeah, she would do that. The horns went back like this, so she would get under, and the wire would ride right along her horns, and it's insulated, and then right off her back, and she wouldn't get shot. Goats.
Someone said, haha, flammable.
Yeah.
All right. We got a bunch of them here for you. Is there a big enough difference between all the beef cattle breeds like Angus, Hereford, etc., to justify higher prices?
Between Angus and Hereford, I would say no. Most of the beef that you're going to see at the store is coming out of feedlots. Where the rubber meets the road on that, where you separate the men from the boys, is the grass-fed compared to feedlot beef. Feedlot beef, if you don't know what that is, you should check it out on YouTube. You can see it in the Midwest. Iowa, I think, is big. Kansas is big. And they're just locations where beef feeder cattle go from all over the country out there. And they just have them in these massive lots. And then they have these feed bunks, and they go along and they just dump feed in these. And the feed is what's really gross. It's surprising what they can feed to cattle and create beef out of. It's really surprising. So you should look into that. A lot of it's not good. A lot of it you wouldn't believe me if I told you. So you should look into it on your own. And whether it's an Angus or a Hereford, feedlot beef is feedlot beef. That's all there is to it. And I know it tastes good because I've eaten it and it tastes okay. Now, when you get to the farm and you're going to feed them on grass, they're going to have to be older by the time that they're butchered. And I have two right now that are Wagyu, that are black Wagyu, that have had nothing but grass their entire lives. A couple of pieces of bread, that's about it. And they're 3 years old, and they are going to be unbelievable. So they're in a class all by themselves. Wagyu is completely different. If you don't know what that is, it's a beef breed that comes out of Japan, but we're going against the grain, the way we do things here, the way you've heard of Kobe beef. The way Kobe beef is raised, is fed commercially, is they have them in barns and they're giving them a grain ration every day. So they're getting hay, but they're getting a grain ration every day. And I know somebody that does it, and he's feeding corn, soy, and wheat and barley, and it's all mixed in with what do you call that stuff? That sweet stuff, that sweet brown stuff.
I checked out on you for a moment. Feed grain.
Yeah, I don't know. Well, it's real sweet, like Karo syrup.
Molasses.
Molasses on there, and they keep them in quiet barns, and they just, but the ones we're doing are strictly grass fed, and the difference between grass fat and corn fat is like night and day. Right? It really is. And for some people, they think corn-fed beef, as if cows were designed to eat corn. Well, they really weren't. A cow is a bovine. They're designed to eat grass and things like grass. That's what that was the design. That was the original design. I mean, I didn't design them. But your question really wasn't that. It was, is there a marketable difference? Marketable, yeah, because the beef industry has, for a long time now, they have touted Angus this, and I think that Angus, I think they've broadened what you can call an Angus, to tell you the truth. So I probably need to know more specifically what you're wanting to know. I really would need to know before I can give you an accurate.
Well, they were wondering because sometimes
Well, if you're
they'll
gonna,
charge more for this breed or that breed.
okay,
If
so
it's
you're gonna
just-
buy calves, is that it? And maybe an Angus calf
But
would
they're
be more than
wondering-
a Hereford?
Right.
Well,
Right.
no, I'd go with if it was cheaper to get a Hereford, I'd go with a Hereford, because I've had Hereford beef that was outstanding, and then I would just feed them grass. And when I say grass fed, I don't mean hay fed. I guess what I really want to say is grass finished, right?
Do you
The
see
difference
Randy's
between,
comment there?
no,
Oh, I was good. That was the next thing, distinguish between grass fed and grass finished.
okay. Grass fed would be, they've been fed grass. So my cows are out on grass right now, and my goal is to keep them out on grass until December 1st. And I'm pretty sure I can do it. I know I have the grass out there to do it. I just don't know if I'm going to have snow that's going to cover it up too much. And that's a whole story in itself, because I decided not to take a second cutting this year, because I just decided that I would anyway. So I'm going to be on grass until December 1st. Let's see, I forget where I was going with that.
Grass fed versus grass finished.
Okay, yeah. So when I process them, I am going to go out there and shoot them as they're eating grass. So they have been finished on grass. They weren't finished on dry hay. The difference between dry hay and grass is, it's a stark difference, right? Stark difference. Just try to eat some grass and then try to eat some hay. It's just a stark difference. And so the fats that are gleaned off of grass, that in grass, remember, is just, it's a solar collector. So it's collecting all that sunlight, and all that energy is going to be stored in the fat of that animal. Is going to be a way better quality than hay fed. So if I let the cows eat hay all winter long, and then let's say I couldn't get them into process until, say, spring, well, they go through a process of cleansing. Right now, they're in the process of building fat so that they can make it through the winter. If you process them in the spring, they're cleansing in the spring. So they get pretty gaunt in the spring. That's not when you want to process an animal. There really is a season for everything, and you want to be processing your animals. I think like November 1st is the time when you really want to start, even though I did one today, but it's been cold here, so I don't have flies now, and it's my time to start. But what you also get when you do a grass finished animal that is finished in the fall is, you're going to get an animal that is storing fat intermuscularly. And that's what you want. When you look at a steak, you like a steak that's got a lot of fat in the muscle, right? And I think that they force that to happen in some breeds by putting them in a feedlot and then just feeding them nothing but fat. And I mean, if it works, I guess, but I know it's not the type of thing that I would want to eat on a regular basis. If you have a good grass-fed T-bone, The flavor profile on that is just, it's so much different than a corn fed. Just so much different. It's way better in my opinion. So that's the difference between corn or grass fed and grass finished, right? So my cows, these ones that I'm going to process here pretty quick, 3 years old. They've been through 3 springs and 3 winters. They're going into winter now, so they're going to get processed here fairly quickly. So the last thing they will have eaten is grass.
Right. The grain they get is what nature gave them.
Yeah, there would be a little bit of grain, and it would be on the tops of anything. Like you see that I do some rye fields. They'll eat that. They'll eat those grains that are on the top there, and that's what they eat first. They like it. But like with anything that we're doing, you want to mimic the way it would be in nature, so that you're staying with the original design. And one of the benefits of homesteading is you have the freedom to do that. And a huge benefit from homesteading is what you get to put in this body, and to make it go longer and be able to think clearer and run faster and jump higher and stuff. You want to be putting in the fuel that it was designed for.
Pig question.
Pig question.
How long do you let a paddock rest after you rotate your pigs onto or off of them? Onto them. How and do you see the grazed area?
Seed it. Seed
Yeah.
it. Okay. Yeah. Okay. If you're going to raise pigs out on pasture, there's a bunch of different ways to do it. And here's some of the ways that I do it. I'll let them run over a field. I got about 15 of them on a field right now that you can check the videos. I put them on there, and there wasn't a whole lot of growth because, and this just shows how forgiving the whole process is. I had a bag of seeds, and it was in the greenhouse where I keep them, and the sun bleached the tag off of it. So I knew basically what kind of seeds they were, but I wasn't sure what kind of seeds. I planted them anyway because I wasn't going to keep them another year to find out, to guess next year. So I just planted them. Planted them heavy. Turns out it was sorghum. Came up not too good. I got it up about 6 inches, and then the field that they were on was totally bare. And I wanted to get something on that field before winter because you want to cover up your fields. You want some sort of growth on them when you go into winter. And for me, I have found that rye is probably the best product to use as you're going into winter because it does not kill under the snow or in extreme cold weather. It actually grows under the snow. And then when you come out of winter, have all that moisture, sun, then it takes off. It just takes off, and you'll have a really, really thick ground cover. So if you have pigs that need to be processed, at least you can get them on some sort of forage for a couple of months if you've done that. Otherwise, you would have to wait and plant in the spring and wait for it to come up to get your pigs on it. So the question is, how long do you wait before you rotate pigs back onto it? I wait as long as I need to have some growth on there that I think is worthy of putting them on there. I mean, the way my system is set up, all I have to do is open a gate and they just walk through into the next field. I have 3 fields that are together, 100 by 100, 100 by 100, 100, and I have them all connected, and then I have a lane that connects them too. So I can go from 1 to 3 by skipping 2, and it's worked out really well. I have videos showing that, and I'll just tell you, you can scale it up. So it doesn't have to be 100 by 100. I just did that because it was a vegetable field that was 300 by 100. And when we We're no longer using it for that. We just started putting pigs on it. And then I thought, hey, if I had this divided up, then I could be growing something on fields 1 and 2 while they're on field 3. And then I could rotate them. And all summer long, I'm growing different stuff. And I usually plant 3 times per field per year. So you can get a lot of growth out of it. So how long should you wait? I would say plant it, and as soon as you're satisfied with what's growing on there, let them have it. I have a field I am planning to get out there and do a video on, and this year I am not putting pigs on it. I have moved pigs to this side of the farm, and that's cattle all the way over there. And so it's just cows over there, and I want to grow something on there and really let the soil rest a little bit because it's kind of sandy, and I'm going to be having the cows on there this year. So I wanted to let it rest. So I planted just this smorgasbord of stuff. Majority of it was sorghum, and then a lot of turnips, a lot of pumpkins. So now I've got pumpkins out there this big. I've got sorghum that's about 5 feet tall and very, very thick. And I have turnips that some of them are this big, no joke. And I don't know as the cows are going to do much with them, but it'll all go back to the soil. So, and then what I plan to do is I plan to put it in some sort of grass. In the spring, I'll level it out and put it back in grass, and that will just be another field that I leave in reserve, and probably that will be the last field that they're on. Now, where it's sorghum, it's nice and high, and even if we do have a heavy snowfall, they'll still be able to follow the stalks down and eat it.
Any thoughts on raising cows in the forest and woods? Can it be done?
Oh yeah, sure. If I had a piece of property that was wooded and I wanted to leave it wooded, um, you don't. It sounds like, from what you're telling me, it sounds like you don't have hay fields, right? So you want to raise your own beef. You're going to buy round bales. Don't buy squares, buy rounds, and figure out a way to get them out there and put them in a round bale feeder. And the cows will find plenty of things to do out in that forest. And the forest will be really easy for you to put electric wire up, just screw an insulator to the trees. That'll keep them in. They will beat down a lot of the brush, which is good. They'll eat a ton of stuff out there that you wouldn't think that they'd eat. Cows don't generally hurt trees. You couldn't put goats out there because they will eat the bark off trees. They call it girdling the trees. So they'll start at the bottom and they'll eat up as high as they possibly can. And it's usually the trees that are the good trees, right? But if I had to do something like that, then I would start thinking about forestry. I would be thinking, for me anyway, I would cut out all the minor trees, the ones that are this big and smaller, get them out of there, and then let the canopy get higher. So the big trees would take off, and I'd thin it out so you could see through the forest. I've seen some beautiful forested areas that people have really managed very well. And those trees will be there 100 years after you're gone. But the cattle can move around in there. They'll have plenty of cover, and they're not going to hurt anything. Yeah, I think it'd be a great idea. If we ever got a different farm, I would really like to have something that has a lot of woods on it. And you can run pigs in the woods too. Can't run goats in the woods because they'll wreck big trees. Oaks, those are the trees that you want because they drop acorns. Pigs love acorns.
The question was about cows.
I know it was about cows, but your average 12-inch in diameter oak tree will drop 2,000 pounds, 1 ton of acorns on an average year, right? Some years they won't drop any, but um, averaged out over, I guess, 10 years, about 2,000 pounds. So that's 2,000 pounds of acorns that are hitting the ground, and squirrels are eating them, but a lot of them just lay there, never root, never. But pigs love them. We collect them, and if I had an oak grove, I mean, that would be the cat's meow. I could fence it off and then let the pigs in there every day. And as those things are hitting the ground, they're chasing them around, and they love them. And it's a very good discipline to use if you're going to preserve that pig. So if you're going to make hams out of it, and you're going to want to make sausages and stuff like that, you can preserve it with just the tannic acid that they're getting from the acorns that they're eating. It's a lot to know about that. But you didn't ask that question. All right, we're getting close on time.
Yep, I got one more question for you. Paul is getting a baby milk cow, like just a few days old, this spring. How long should he keep her away from the other cows? And he said he doesn't want her getting them sick.
Yeah, I know what you mean. Like, you're getting her from a herd that's not your herd, and you want to isolate her for a little while. If you have other cows, you're going to want to keep her isolated, because she'll go and start sucking them. And so I would keep her isolated.
Plus, it's a lot easier to feed her if she's not in with them.
Yeah, if she's not in with them, you can feed them. You can feed her a whole lot easier. I would say 3 months, and then put her in. As she goes to sucking them, pull her back out again until she gets over it.
Until she's weaned.
Until she's weaned, yeah. Until she's got to be on hay and grain, and so that's going to be 10 weeks.
8 to 12 weeks.
8 to 12 weeks.
Yeah. If you can keep her on milk till 12 weeks, she'll do better. But 8 is sort of the
There you go.
industry standard, quote unquote.
Yeah. So in that case, she's going to be isolated from your cows anyway. So the chances of anything transferring into your herd from her is would probably be slim and none after 3 months. Let's see, what else was I going to say? Oh, baby cow is incorrect nomenclature. Just for all of our people out there, there's 23,000 people listening. It's a lot of people. No, a baby cow is actually a heifer, right? And she's a heifer until she has her own calf, and then she becomes a cow. Some places they actually call her a first-year heifer, but let's just keep it simple. She's not a cow until she has had a calf. So there is no really any such thing as a baby cow. So get straight on that, Paul. And a male, as long as we're on the subject, that is not castrated is a bull. If he's been castrated, that means cutting his testicles off or banding them or something like that, some way to separate him from his testicles, he becomes a steer. A steer. Yep. Okay, that's the last question, and we went over by 34 minutes. Fun. If you folks haven't joined the tribe, please go on over to the Anyone Can Farm tribe. It's on Facebook, and join up, and then continue to watch the videos that we've put up on Baker's Green Acres YouTube. They've been categorized by Lorna, and hopefully you can find what you're looking for. And we will see you again next week. It's Mark from Baker's Green Acres. Remember, anyone can farm. See you next time. Thanks for coming. Good night.